when we came to Waypoint, the name Waypoint, we had so many names. I never dreamed in a million years it'd be this hard. I never dreamed. We had so many names, and we had 10 filters. And I don't know, Ryan, he brought them. I don't know if he made them up or if he found them or whatever, but it was a game changer. When he had these 10 filters, every name would go down, it'd clunk, it would hit one's like, all right, that's not it. We have this, we'd have this. The people at one point, then after we had been at this for a long time, we said, you know what, let's let the folks of our church give us, some ideas. And so we had some horrendous, and we knew we would. I mean, they were horrendous. Second Baptist Church. I mean, that would be awesome, right? Hello. It just, so they would go, all of them down, and we could not get one. Eventually we had literally one name got through the 10 filters. And it was almost as if God said, you guys are so dumb that if I give you more than one, you're going to mess this up. We did not have more than one that would go through these 10 filters. And at the end of the day, the Waypoint was a way that we could communicate the gospel to people, because we knew we were going to have to explain, why'd you change your name? And we have. And so what I taught them is, when you have this is your opportunity. They are opening up the door to share the gospel with them, and they don't even know it. So I taught them how to share the gospel in less than 2 minutes, just using the name Waypoint, that we believe that Jesus is who he says he is. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And there's no other way to heaven. There's no other way to salvation. There's no other way to hope in this life and peace than through Jesus. And we're just pointers. We point to him. We point to the way. We point to Jesus. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're not perfect. We have stuff. We're struggling. And what we're doing is trying to work together to point to him. He's the Savior, not us. And so I've had tons of people, when I shared that was kind of that last thing that said, you know what? I can get on board with this, because there's a purpose. This isn't just a cool name. This isn't just about branding something different. It's not just about, okay, we were this, now this. No, this has a purpose. And I've had numerous people say, I've shared the gospel more in the last 2 years with people than I have my whole life, because they open up the door. How does this, why the name change? We get that all the time. I get it all the time. And I use it just right in. And I've shared it with lots and lots of lost people. And I've had people say this, I'm not a church goer, but if I ever can't go to church, I'm going to yours. Because there seems to be a purpose behind it. There seems to be something that matters to you guys. And so it's been a really cool thing.
Totally. Yeah. And just another peek in behind the curtain a bit on what our team was doing, how we were planning for a vote and a second vote, because, again, with the way we make some of these big decisions as a church, is we do want to bring it to the congregation for that vote. But what's interesting, I think, and I don't know, we've talked to a few churches that have gone through a name change process, but I think we're fairly unique, at least in our experience thus far, and how carefully and how much time we wanted to take to walk through the decision making. Our first vote was not, should we be Waypoint? Our first vote was, should we change our name? And I think where that first vote kind of came from was, in light of everything we've been talking about, is this clear? Is this landing in your hearts as the people of this church? Does this make sense? Before we even get to working on the branding and giving you guys an opportunity to give us names and showing you what we've got, the first conversation was we just wanted to do a pulse check on whether or not this continual conversation about vision and thinking about the future was landing with our people. Does this make sense? Are you on board? Is this a future you're excited about? So that was actually the very first vote that we did, was a yes or no. Is this the direction that God is leading our church? And what the church didn't know as well, and I think this is kind of just the fun bit of being on the leadership team and being on the staff, is we were so confident and unified as a church and convinced that this was the direction that God had for the church, that we were already working on names. I mean, we were already working through the filters of names, and we had already started working with the ArtSpeak team on branding. But I mean, we were confident, and we were totally ready to respond to our church if the church said, hey, this is just not for us. We're totally fine with pumping the brakes. And that's not time lost to us that we spent. But we were so unified as a staff that we were already working towards that end, and we wanted to kind of move quickly on this. So we were kind of doing two things at once. And so that's kind of a little bit of a peek behind the curtain too. If you're a church or a leader that is considering a similar thing, I think, again, if you can start with being prayerful, being in tune with a vision that God has put before you as a leadership team, if you can get that unity at the leadership level, I think there's definitely room to explore kind of getting a little bit ahead of the game and trying to kind of gain some ground initially before you even have that conversation with church saying, hey, this is what the leadership's thinking. So we're kind of doing two things at once there, and it worked out really well for us. And I think we were able to capitalize on some specific timelines and deadlines and stuff because we were doing some of that work. But I do think the key ingredient for that particular piece was the staff unity around this, and some of those high-level leaders in the church also being super unified around taking this step. But yeah, that's just kind of what we did first. We did yes or no, and then we went to, okay, we're all in on this. It looks like the church wants to do this. We want to open this up to you. You are part of this. You know, yes, we are your leadership team. We are your staff, but this is your church too, and we want you to have ownership in this. So the first step was then just start sending some, is there any name on your heart? Is there any vision on your heart that you think would connect with people? And then, we took that, and like we said, we, I'm kind of kicking myself. I don't have my 10 filter document pulled up in front of me, but that's a resource that we developed as a team and would love to share that with you all so you can share with whoever. But those 10 filters for us were super, super essential as we were running a name through, make sure that yes or no. Off the top of my head, a couple of those were, we had everything from like a big filter, which is like, does this communicate a gospel-centered vision? Like, is this, are we very lofty, very high vision? Like, that was one of the filters. But we even got down to very niche filters like, is the URL for this name available? Like, that's important to us. Like, if we're going to go all in a digital future, we know that a lot of our communication, a lot of our ministry and relationship building happens online. And we know that culture and how those people interact with websites. Like, that was a big one for us. So it's like, can we buy waypointchurch.com? Is that available? Is there another church out there that, takes this? So we kind of had, those filters range from super lofty, super vision to very, very specific and practical. But I do think that those 10 filters were very, very important for us for finding that name and landing on it. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a peek inside to kind of some of the things we were doing at the same time, and how we were inviting our church members into that process as well.
What you just said there could be the answer to my next question. And I thank you. We will definitely figure out a way for those watching to grab those filters and download those. But you guys, when you made the big announcement, you were everywhere. And I know I live in the same area, but I'm telling you, I saw it at the restaurant. Like, I remember the day you launched, and I was just going out to eat after a soccer game. Like, totally. You guys, T-shirts everywhere. And I saw the T-shirts. I thought, I wonder if this is part of their staff. But it wasn't. No one there was on staff. People loved it, man. You had involved people, and that's probably part of the answer, is you had involved so many people for so long to be a part of this process that when you did roll it out, oh my gosh, you guys saturated. Your people were excited about it, and they were wearing it. I see it on cars. I saw it on shirts. I saw it on billboards. Tell me about that, Ryan. I know you probably championed a lot of that in your department. What were some of the practical things that you did? You launched it really well.
Yeah, totally. We decided the approach that we wanted to take was, again, because this was such a long process and there was so much work involved in kind of getting it set up, we said we want to focus on a launch day. We want to pick a day on the calendar that says, and we can promote well out in advance to our people, saying, this is the day that we're going to celebrate our new church name and our new vision and our new sense of how we're going to reach out to the community. And so we picked a date. We picked a Sunday in October of, I believe it's 2018 now. And we said, this is going to be the day. But what the approach that we took was, again, it's just like you said, because we knew that this was such an integrated process when it came to the members of our church, we wanted to use our people mainly as the promotional factor and essentially the difference maker in getting that out there. So we spent a lot of time thinking about, okay, what are those things that we can give to our people for free that kind of they're excited about, because we could make pens, and there's nothing against people who want to make pens, but if I get a pen, I just like, I don't do stuff with pens nowadays. I'm not going to like, hey guys, here's my pen, so we had to think about, okay, what are those things? What are the promotional pieces that if we're going to spend a lot of time, energy, effort, and money into creating and giving away to our people, what are they going to want? And so that's where the t-shirts kind of came from. We know that you give swag away. People just love it. They love free shirts and stuff, and they'll wear that. So we know we wanted shirts. We knew we wanted bumper stickers. We knew that we wanted some backpacks that had the brand. It's like some of those drawstring bags that, you just pick one up. I feel like we're always looking for one when we go out. Someone's like, man, I need a drawstring bag. So we did one of those. And so just some of those pieces that are like, what are those things that people actually want? What do they want to wear? So that speaks a little bit into just the product itself. But then from our perspective, this is kind of our approach as well with the visual expression of the brand that we worked on your team with. Is it was really important to us to build something that people were proud to wear, and something that people could see value in instantly when they saw it. It had high brand value. And so that's kind of that was one of our pillars as we went into this. We want this to be, it's not about trying to compete with other churches with a better look, right? That wasn't our approach. And that wasn't why we were trying to have a quality and beautiful brand. The approach was, if people are going to be our driving force in promotion, if we can put something that is beautiful, that is exciting, that is high quality in their hands, if we can put a brand that they can get excited about in their hands, that's going to be the fuel to those people sharing it. And so that was one of the reasons why, we picked your team. We did our research on teams that had done rebrands for churches before, and we loved your work. And what we saw in your work was a forward thinkingness as well. We saw in Art Speaks Design the same thing we were doing. We were thinking about the future, thinking about what does the next generation expect when they interact for the first time with the brand. And that was something that was very important to us, and we saw that in your work. And so that was kind of all wrapped up, that was all wrapped up in the launch day. And so we had high quality giveaways, which everyone got. Everyone who came in got a shirt, they got a bag, they got a bottle, they got everyone from the kid. We made Waypoint like pajamas for kids. I mean, we kind of went crazy with the swag. It was onesies and like everything. We did it all. But another important piece of that launch day promotion, I think, was there was kind of some back end stuff that we needed to do. I don't know if any of your listeners have ever had to deal with, if you pull up Google Maps and you search for your church's maps pin, like it says a name, and that's established with a lot of things that happen on the back end of the internet, and like people don't know how that works. But if you want to change that, like if we wanted to change our Google Maps First Baptist Church Harvester pin to a Waypoint Church pin, there's a lot of things that kind of need to happen behind the scenes to get that done. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to kind of implement social media into the launch day in a way that was working towards promotion. Obviously, that's such a great way to promote any brand in any church nowadays is social media. And so if we're leaning into people, we know our people are on social, we know they're excited, and we know the quickest and easiest way for them to share something that they're excited about is social media. And so we knew that we were going to get brand reach and brand impression on launch day, just purely because people were excited and taking pictures. But another thing we needed to do was kind of establish our physical location, like the geofence of our location, as this is Waypoint Church. And so we did a mosaic that was drawing from our Instagram hashtag. And so we were saying, hey, if you take today's launch day, you've got your shirt on, take a picture of yourself, take a picture of your family, and include this particular hashtag. And we've got a system that's going to pull all those pictures into this big, beautiful mosaic that people are like taking stickers and putting up themselves. So there's some involvement there, and they're getting involved and having fun. But what it's doing is when they use that hashtag and when they post to Instagram and they search for the pin that says Waypoint Church, which we already kind of built on the back end, but it was buried in that list of results because it just wasn't established yet. It wasn't, there were no hits on it yet. We're saying, hey, post Instagram hashtag and pull that little location tag up in the post, search for our church and say, this is where you are. Because that's actually going to also help us, that you all aren't even thinking about this. That's going to help us establish when people are just Googling Waypoint Church, or they're on Instagram, or they're on the maps, like that'll establish our physical location. And so we're trying to do, the people was the driving force. But I think, again, if you can think ahead a little bit and put some strategy to it, I think you can kind of do a ton of things at once, some of those behind the scenes techie things that really help us in the long run for searchability and stuff like that. So yeah, that day was amazing. It was kind of our strategy. We went all in on that. We got a ton of different things done at once on that. And it was just really exciting. It was a great energy that day.
That's a genius move. And you guys did it right. I mean, it launched, and you had your whole church who you had been building up for this. You had cast the vision. You had sold them on the why of where you were headed with the vision. You got the leadership on board. You began involving them in the process. You had your filters, so you knew that you were going to get the result in the end that you wanted. And then you were able to roll this out in a way that got people excited, got people to identify themselves with it. The move with Instagram and geotagging, that was genius to just establish that. But all of this, obviously, this was not the vision. The vision was not, hey, let's change the name. The vision is still out there. Can you tell me what's on the horizon? Where are you headed to? What's next for Waypoint?
Well, one, can you see why we have guys like Ryan? I mean, I could never come up with that. Are you serious? That's just genius, brilliant stuff that all of us older people on staff were just like, oh, we don't know anything about that. How does that work? And they just did a phenomenal job. And so we are blessed to have Ryan and others on the staff who work so hard behind gospel-centered people. They realize they can't do everything, but they refuse to do nothing. And so we have people on our staff who are gospel-centered. They just have different gifts, and we all have to work together. And that's it's always messy. Relationships are always messy, and so we're always thinking through that. And as we lead, and just trying to answer your question, Kurt, we knew at the time that God was calling us to be multi-site. Knew that. There's no doubt about that. And technology was going to be a big part of that. And one piece was we can't have a name that puts us in one location if we're going to be in multi-location. So that was one piece. We also knew that if our community didn't know we loved them, that they're never going to believe that God loves them if we don't love them. So we decided we were going to have to double down, triple down, whatever it took to love our community. And what does that look like? And so part of the vision of multi-site was not just going out to different locations, but to love our community so well that other communities would hear. Before we ever got there, they would hear about Waypoint and what Waypoint is doing in their own community. Before we go to Wildwood, we said, let's make sure that when we are starting to get to Wildwood, they've already heard what we're doing in St. Charles and St. Peter. So we worked hard at that. We just finished a renovation where there's a coffee shop that will be open Monday through Friday. It's in our lobby. We made our lobby a working, it'll be the largest, nicest coffee shop in probably St. Louis Metro, wouldn't you say, Ryan?
Yeah,
you're more of a coffee.
Totally.
It's phenomenal. And we have a hub, Onyx, there on, you're advertising for them.
There you go, yeah.
We're going to be the hub for them. But the whole point of that is not just coffee. The point of that was, how can we can't go to people's homes anymore. How do we bring them to ours? How do we use this building that we have a great campus? We really do. It's phenomenal. But we have all the space for Sundays that is primarily really empty for the rest of the week. How do we use this to do ministry? We know we can't go to them. People don't want you banging on their doors, going knock. They don't want that. That's the last thing, So how do we get in the routine of building relationship? Not bringing them to a service, not trying to get in an event as much, but how do we get them in, not just to the building, but near us, that we could just build relationship so that they see we're normal people. They can also see, hey, it's not if their life is going to fall apart, but when their life falls apart, maybe, just maybe, they've been getting their coffee here every day, and they said, I know a pastor, or I met maybe someone at that church can help our marriage, or, going through grief. So what we're trying to do is build relationship just simply through coffee, to use space that we already have to bring people in and just to build relationships so that when life falls apart or when they have questions, maybe, just maybe, they've been around Waypoint people, not just pastors or not just staff, but Waypoint people We're going around to all the businesses saying, we want you to have your meetings here. We want you to do hiring here, hopefully not firing, but hiring here. We want you to come here after schools. We want you to bring your kids here. We want this to be a community place, so much so that I've been saying to business owners, we built this for you. And if you don't use it, we're going to be offended. We spent millions of dollars for you. Of course, I'm kidding them, and they know that, but they also like, I've never heard of anything like this. No church has ever, come to us and say, please have your parties here, please have your meetings here, have your business meetings, whatever. Tell your, Walmart's just right over here. Tell your Walmart employees, come do your breaks over here. We got charging stations everywhere. We got coffee. So again, what we're trying to say to the community is this. If Waypoint ever blew up or just suddenly vanished, would anybody outside of attenders on Sunday, anybody one, notice? And two, would they even care? And so what we have gone back and said, we're going to do everything we possibly can do to be so intertwined into this community that when we plant in other communities, the DNA of who we are can be replanted anywhere. But we have to make sure that we have it right here. You can't give away what you don't have. And so being able to have high level, like branding, I think Ryan is exactly right, that branding isn't trying to tell other people you're superior to other churches. It's just showing people how you're distinct from other churches. That's what branding can do. And so I wouldn't say that, McDonald's branding is so much better than Taco Bell or Burger King. I would just say that it's distinct. Now, those of you who are in the professional realm, you can judge that. But as far as overall, what we're not trying to do is say, okay, how much better can we be from the other churches? At the end of the day, they're our teammates. They're not our competition. Good. What we want people to know is this is how we're distinct. And if God is calling you here, if you want to be a part of this, you just need to know this is who we are. This is what we do. And we're not saying we're all that and then some. We're just saying this is what we are. And maybe the Lord's led you here. Maybe he's led you other places. That's okay. We're not going to be mad about that. But there are so few at least in our personal estimation, of gospel-centered churches, gospel-preaching churches, and gospel-going churches right in their local community that we feel like the Lord has opened up. And matter of fact, Barna says that after COVID, we didn't know, of course, when all of this, we didn't know COVID was coming. We were laying a foundation that we can go anywhere at any time and immediately kind of set up shop, and there can be help. Barna says 20% of churches aren't going to make it out of COVID. He's also saying now that 20% of churches probably are going to lose their pastors. Pastors are saying, when this thing's done, I'm out. I didn't sign up for this. And I can attest to having feelings of that myself because it's so hard, so challenging. But when the smoke clears, the Lord has led us not just to a name change, but to a vision and to bringing of people together in such a way that it is apparent to all of us that he laid a foundation knowing this was coming and prepared us to say, okay, how can we help? It could be microsites. We can go in and help immediately with technology. They can be a Waypoint microsite. And so they're just using the teaching and the worship time. It could lead to multi-site, but technology and what we have in our staff and the branding and everything that comes with the vision, all of that goes together to say, we can come to your location, wherever you are in Missouri. That's really what we're focused on. We believe that God has called us to go. I really felt like the Lord said to me, I want Missouri. Bob, I've been here 27 years. And as I turn around, I've been in the rural, I've been in the mid-size, and I've been in the metro. That's not for no reason. It's not just, coincidental. It's as if the Lord said, I raised you up so that you can turn around, you can go, I want all of Missouri. People know you, you've led through stuff, and now I have brought you to the point you can go and you can plant DNA, scalable. Not everybody's going to have a coffee shop in their lobby if they're in Garden City, Missouri. You're probably not going to do that. but it doesn't have to have that. The DNA is we're outside the walls, we're tearing down the walls and we're opening doors. And how do we do that? And it just looks different in different locations, but it's the same feel, it's the same flavor. And those pastors that are leading those Waypoint churches like Waypoint, Iowa, we have Waypoint, Iowa is actually in Kansas. It's so far into Missouri, it's in Kansas. So that's a little rural community. And so it looks different there. It looks different than Wildwood, where we are currently moving into. But the DNA is the same. How do we say we are about bringing down walls and open up doors so that we can get the good news of the gospel to them? And if anything hinders that, then we need to tear it down, whatever that is, whatever tradition, whatever preference, whatever style, whatever that is that hinders people from getting the mission, which is getting Jesus to them and making disciples. Anything that hinders that, we need to tear it down and throw it aside because it's not worth it.
I love that, man. Thank you. And I just, a lot of our audience and those we connect with are church leaders, pastors, and a lot of creatives, especially church creatives. And so thank you guys for as church leaders and church creatives on this call, taking the time. And if I could, just knowing you, I feel the green light to volunteer you guys as a possible encouragement and connection. Because like you said, there's a lot of people right now that you've given some practical stuff, you've given some stuff, but there's also that emotional, spiritual journey that a lot of church leaders, a lot of pastors, and a lot of church creatives are going through. A lot of this pandemic has weighed heavy on them, and they're looking for, when can I tap out? If I could just, both Ryan, Bob, as we post this in the coming weeks, tag you guys and then just give an admonition. You're nodding your heads yes, so I'm going to go ahead and give it. Contact these guys. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to figure out what the next steps are alone. You've got people like Bob and Ryan that would be in your corner and would love to come alongside wherever you're at, whether you're in Missouri or not, but wherever you're at, and help you figure out what those next steps would, could, and should be.
Absolutely. And we want people to know our church isn't perfect. It's full of people, so it's never going to be perfect. Our staff's full of people. So sometimes we can look at people's success and think, oh, they're so far ahead, or they're all that and then some, and we're just not. No, that's not the case. That's the enemy telling lies. We're just people. We had, I don't know how many it was on that leadership team, all of our heads together, probably anywhere from 12 to 18 people at any given time. And I know a lot of pastors, they're 1, 2, 3. They don't have what we have. And we recognize that. To whom much is given, much is required. We know that God has given these resources to us, not just for Waypoint, but for others. And so we're committed to what you're talking about, Jason. You're inviting people. That's what we're committed to. We're committed to helping others. And it may not be at the size, it may not be at the scale, but it's something. And a gospel-centered person knows they can't do everything, but they refuse to do nothing. And so even if we can just kind of help that one step or connect them to, hey, have you looked at this resource? All the back stuff that Ryan is saying with Facebook and Google, I mean, he could go into stuff that none of us would understand. And like, is he speaking English? I mean, I have no idea. That's available to guys that are leading churches and that don't know any of that. We can help. Now, we may not be able to do everything for them. At the end of the day, it is their vision. They have to own it. And it's more than a name change. They have to know this. A name change was part of this movement, the gospel movement, the vision. It was just one part of it. It was a significant part, but it was just one part. I think some have the thought of, if we build it, they will come. If we change our name, they will come. Well, they may come and they'll find you're the same church you were before. And if they find you to be the same church you were before the name change as after the name change, you wasted time, energy, effort, and resources. And so the vision has to be a part of what it means of changing your name, and this is who we are in the community. So that would be a part of that admonition as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. It's such an honor and privilege to have our team serving as a part of your team, and both with the branding and the ongoing stuff today. But boy, this is gold really for people that have watched, and we're going to be distributing this over the next several weeks. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.